Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trek Before. This one, we're going home. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. Colleen's back for this one. She said, I'll do this one. She's back. She loves whales. Anyway, she loves me somehow. Anyway, speaking of things you're going to love, maybe more than whales and probably more than me, Stark Story Snacks, Season 3. We keep going with the alliteration with that. It's come to an end, but for a limited time, the stories are still free on our website, IABDpresents.com. Binge all 9 micro-fiction pieces of scary, mysterious, and mythical. The anthology tales are standalone, so jump in whenever you like. And if you want, you can go back, find seasons 1 and 2 here at IABDpresents.com. And while you're there, while you're stuttering over that, go to patreon.com/IABD. Support us there. $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, $1,000 level. Just go read what you get for that $1,000 level, and I think you might be hooked. Also, while you're roaming that internet, go to YouTube. We got a YouTube channel. All kinds of stuff out there. You can listen to us there. You might be listening to us there right now. You might be listening to me right there right now. Not to mention all kinds of other features. Check out the YouTube channel. It's All Been Presents. It's a visual thing, just like Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, and It's All Been Trek Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trek Before. Your normal crew is here.
This is Steven.
And the normal Keith.
Jimmy-Jerome, and we are joined once again by 2 returning guests.
I'm Colleen.
And I'm Marianne.
And Colleen, am I mistaken in saying that this is like the one Star Trek thing you really enjoy?
It's the only one I cared about.
Yeah.
So here I am.
Would you like to expound upon that?
It's just my parents raised us on the original series and the movies, and this was, as kids, our favorite movie because obviously it's hilarious and it's got the whales and everything, and yeah. So we watched it many, many, many times.
I saw this when it came out in '86. I think I saw it opening day. I just remember going to my high school girlfriend's parents had friends, so we went to Thanksgiving with them for some reason. I was the only one who wanted to watch football. And then I was like, we gotta go see Star Trek tonight. That's all I cared about. And it was delightful then, and I probably hadn't seen the full thing in 20 years, probably at least.
Now
I'd seen bits and pieces, but
I'm genuinely curious, how was this marketed? Was it because I call it the whale movie. Was it marketed as a whale movie?
No. It was just
that was Star Trek.
It was just a Star Trek movie, and it was just, and we've talked about the piece of the action one, the ones where they go to Earth-like planets. This is one where, and we all know how much we all didn't like that. At some point it's like, okay, not every planet should be Earth-like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But this one kind of solves that problem. You're like, you know what, we're just going to go back to Earth. There's the time travel problem.
This is a good one.
This is a better version of all those, even though I like piece of the action.
Oh, I really like Assignment Earth.
You're right. Assignment Earth is weird because it's a pilot, but...
Yeah, backdoor pilot for a show that never happened. Yeah.
I love that they're poking fun at themselves and everything else. More stuff on all that, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, I see why this is the other one that everyone loves. Wrath of Khan is still one of the greatest movies of all time, so you're not going to get... I'm never going to say this is better, but this is a blast.
We're not to rankings yet.
But I know. Sorry. Spoiler alert.
But yeah, no, I agree.
I saw this opening weekend with my parents.
Oh.
And I loved it.
You want to specify how old you were? Steven was in high school.
I was not in high school. 86.
I had actually just graduated.
Sixth grade? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I was 3.
I enjoyed it, and I remember replaying when I would rewatch it on videotape, replaying certain scenes because they were my favorite scenes. And then I'm an only child, so I was alone. So I would set up my stuffed animals and all reenact scenes from it because it was such a good one, and I love Star Trek so much.
I never knew how lucky I was to have 3 siblings to play these characters with. I'm so sorry.
So you actually reacted to them as well?
Oh, all the time.
I had 4 siblings, and none of them would watch the movie with me or interact.
Yeah.
Oh.
I wish my mom was here. She would tell you so many stories. We would build spaceships on our couch, and we made up our own planets, and it was a whole thing. We
Did you
were
ever do
always
the hanging off the side of the Klingon ship, of course?
My sister had to be Kirk because she was the oldest. Mm-hmm. We all wanted to be Bones because he's the one that got to say "damn it," and we all wanted to curse.
I have a note on that too.
And then I usually got to be whatever alien chick Kirk was banging because I wanted to be the girl. You were was not that interesting.
That's funny because
Jillian.
I'm sure I was, yeah.
Because when we did Star Trek, I was always Kirk, and then Sean was whoever. Sean would jump around and be everybody. Lori always wanted to be a side character, that wasn't on the show.
These are Ruse's siblings, by the way.
Yes, sorry. So she was always like, I'm Sulu's sister, Susu, or whatever. She would make up these different characters, which
that's awesome.
Which was kind of
awesome.
Well, I don't really have any colorful stories about that at all. I barely remembered. I might have seen bits of it even back then, and then just probably like you hadn't seen it like 20-something
Yeah.
years.
I loved this movie. I always considered Star Trek 6 my second favorite, and this being my third. But I think part of that was because I never watched this movie on its own. I always watched this 2, 3, 4.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a trilogy. I have to watch them all together. I was very anal about that. Obviously, Wrath of Khan's amazing, so this is the third chapter of the trilogy. Like, it bounced back up from Star Trek 3, but it didn't get back to Wrath of Khan level.
No.
So that's where I always dismiss this. I think I didn't give it its full due. It's a really great film. I'm still not willing to say it's better than Star Trek 6, but we'll get to there in a year or two.
All right.
More spoilers.
I look forward to that.
But I definitely think it's a strong movie. I'm not complaining. I've got a few minor plot gripes, but for the most part, I mean, this is a great film.
In a lot of ways, I wrote this, it's the return of Voyager. It's actually a very similar plot line to Star Trek The Motion Picture, in that this probe comes back, it wants somebody to answer it. That person's not there, but in this instance, they have to go back in time to do it.
And wisely, they didn't spend all their movie time trying to talk to the probe this time.
Yes.
They're like, we'll get back to it in an hour and a half.
They figured it out quickly, yes.
I will say that as kids, it never occurred to me how ridiculous it was. This probe comes back specifically to talk to a humpback whale. Like,
Yeah.
why is that the thing it's focused on? That never occurred to me as a kid. But now it seems so silly. It's like the planet is populated by so many species, and the universe is populated, but they're like, no, humpback whales, that's our jam.
Well,
That's what we're looking for.
So there's a novel called Star Trek Probe, which is a great novel. It was the third original series hardback novel published in like 92. So I read it when it was new. And it's a sequel to this. It's set 10 years later, and they follow up on the probe is now crossed into Romulan territory, and they get into what the probe is and all that stuff. And so the aliens that build it are essentially highly advanced humpback whales. I mean, they're not from Earth, but humpback whales are what is most similar to them.
I want that movie. I will
So,
watch that.
yeah. So when they came to Earth, of course, they're looking for their own kind. And they had them there
makes sense.
before, they're coming back. The book is actually very political into Romulan politics, the Praetor dies, and all this stuff. And Kevin
I
Riley
believe that.
features heavily in the
I
book.
wouldn't.
I only read every
He is
45
Ambassador
minutes.
Sarek's
Fascinating.
protege.
That's another reason to read that
Commander
book.
Kevin Riley.
Yeah.
It's a great book. I highly recommend Star Trek Probe. If you want the next chapter of Gillian Taylor and Spock mind melding with the probe and more Commander Kevin Riley.
The thing is that I brought up at the end of the movie.
Yes.
The probe came from across the stars to say, "Hey guys, you there?" And then they were like, "Yeah." And then they're like, "Okay, bye."
All right, cool.
Yeah.
They talk. I mean, you what?
Are you here to help? You guys
Yeah.
want to do something? You want to talk
Yeah.
about some stuff, or
You want to talk about
can
some
I give you
stuff?
some food? Or
Any of these
Yeah.
things would have been better than just like packing up, going back. I got my answer.
I
of
won't
yes.
say the book satisfies that. I think it's more focused on like, hey probe, there are other creatures out there besides whales. Be nice to us. Don't ignore us and kill us accidentally. Let's go back to the beginning of the movie. Opening credits was super freaking long.
Colleen and I have been going back and watching some old movies, including To Kill a Mockingbird, which I always forget. Like we've watched like To Kill a Mockingbird, Treasures of the Sierra Madre, and Vertigo, and it's like, when do we get to the movie?
Well, Freaky Friday was the same way when we
Yeah,
watched that.
yeah.
All the
It's
credits
all
were at the
changed
beginning.
since then, but yeah, you know.
I mean, yeah,
the Bond
People
movies.
will sit through them at the beginning. They
Bond
have them
movies
at
are the only
end.
ones that really have that anymore. I mean, you might have an opening sequence that kind of has credits, but not like this.
Yeah, I mean, so while we're on the subject, let's go ahead and talk the Bechdel test, because Marianne brought it up. None of the original Star Trek films passed the Bechdel test.
No, it doesn't.
It's not till next gen films that they
Yeah.
pass.
I-
And episode-wise, DS9 has some episodes that pass, but not a lot.
Yeah.
And Voyager's the first one that gets into it more. I think just about every episode of Discovery passes, but
Pretty sure every episode of the
different
original
eras.
series failed.
Yes, I don't think there's a single episode of the original
Can't think
series.
of one that-
Well, none of the 6 films pass.
Yeah.
I mean, the one argument for this film was, hey, you heard her talk to that woman on the street and ask where the naval vessel, nuclear
No,
vessel.
no, and
No, I know it doesn't count.
the
I'm
only
just saying.
reason she got talked to was because they towed her car, and they said,
Yeah.
"So you can get your money back. Why don't we?"
Well,
give
she
you
approached them.
Yeah.
So she was like, they're like, you gotta move your car, we're filming. She's like, I'm not gonna do that. So they got it impounded, and then she's like, all right, well, let me make my money so I can
Yeah.
get my
Get
car
my car.
impoundment. Let me be on screen. So they're like, all right. So they're like, act natural, and she did, obviously. And then
She said a line, so therefore she had.
she had to join the Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Oh my
So
god.
that's her name was Layla. Yeah, but that's an awesome story.
Yeah.
I don't even think they showed her face, did they? Yeah.
It's a half face. Like,
So the lesson here is if people are filming and your car's there and you want to be in the movie, don't move your car.
That's
Don't
how
be
you
the
get,
nice person.
that's
Get
how
in the
you, that's how
movie.
you get into business.
That's
right there.
exactly.
Before we jump back to the beginning of the movie, isn't that scene? A lot of those people were just people walking by on the street that they
Yeah.
had to sign a
Yeah.
release and
Yeah.
ask them questions.
Um,
Which is a weird thing for a big blockbuster film to have, is just random people on the street that we show.
The other part of that is, so Nimoy, who directed this, was trying to decide whether they needed to change the wardrobe. And
From Star Trek 3?
Yeah,
Because
so
they're all wearing the exact same
he
thing.
spent a little time a couple days in San Francisco.
Yes.
He's like, nope, they blend right in.
yeah.
So, which I think is
They
hilarious.
certainly don't blend in, but not in a bad way.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, but I think he was like, yeah, it wouldn't be that out of place to be wearing
I
what
feel
they
like
wear.
Spock's outfit should have gotten drawn a few more eyes.
Maybe, but if they were on Haight Ashbury, nobody would even blink.
It's just weird to me that the 3 months on Vulcan and they're still in the same clothes. I assume they're like, these are the only clothes we arrived
That's
in.
what I have.
So you've been having us wear other clothes, but because we're going home, we have to give back the other clothes?
Makes
I don't know.
sense.
What did they do for those 3 months on Vulcan? Like, why did they act like they never tried to learn any of the Klingon? Like, I have no idea how to do this. What have you been doing? Just visiting, sightseeing?
And wouldn't it have aired out by then too? It wouldn't have smelled as bad.
Well, if you opened all the doors.
Right. I
Yeah.
feel like,
yeah, well, they probably had all the doors open. They had everybody out
They
there.
didn't know about the hatch yet.
and
And honestly, you couldn't find somebody to write bounty on the side without spray paint.
Yeah,
yeah, it's Vulcan. And is there not Rosetta Stone for Klingon? Come on.
There's not,
How can
because
there
they've
not
been
be?
at war. Because they've been at war.
Ah.
They're just now negotiating peace.
But
There.
we had people that speak whatever when we were bombing them, right?
Yeah, we did.
I guess to be fair, I guess I don't know. I guess it depends on how long the Federation folks have known.
We'll get to that in the next movie,
All right.
which we'll cover in about a year from now, where you hear us trying to look
God.
through paperback books to translate Klingon on the fly.
That's
Do
what
you
I'm
remember
saying.
that?
There you go.
Yeah, that's a scene in Final Frontier. We'll get to
Huh.
that. So back to the beginning of the movie. The probe, we're introduced to the probe, which is somehow making loud sounds in space where sound doesn't travel, which seems ridiculous. And then we get the footage from Star Trek 3 that is totally Peter Parker style. Like, they must have something called the Peter Parker probe that they launch whenever there's a conflict to take good footage from the outside. Then we meet the Saratoga, which has the first on-screen black female captain in Star Trek.
Yeah, played by Madge Sinclair, who was a great character actress. She also played Eddie Murphy's mom in Coming to America. And you guys will know this, and I do not. She was also Simba's mom.
I'm so much more interested.
She's
But
surrounding.
also, James Earl Jones was her husband and the dad in both those movies.
Oh, wow.
We will also see that actress again soon as Geordie LaForge's mother in Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Who was also a captain, I believe, but not the same captain, obviously. Speaking of actors they reuse, because Star Trek does tend to reuse actors, Brock Peters,
Yeah.
who played Admiral Cartwright, will be Captain Sisko's father in Deep Space Nine, which is a reoccurring role. He does a bunch of
Oh, that's
episodes. Yeah. I like Brock Peters.
And he was Tom Robinson in To Kill a Mockingbird. And he was Darth Vader in when NPR did the radio version. He played Darth Vader.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He'd be a good
Yeah.
Darth Vader.
Yeah, he was great.
I like Brock Peters. Yeah, we didn't have a lot of him in this. Deep Space Nine, obviously, we
Yeah.
a lot more. But I liked what we got of him in this.
While we're doing actors here, we mentioned Jane Wyatt. I forgot all about her popping in. She's so good every time.
She is, and this time, this appearance of Amanda, I've always wondered since 2 seasons of Discovery, so always, I mean like 2 years.
Sure.
Mia Kirshner just seemed really odd, and I kept thinking back to Journey to Babel,
Right.
Amanda,
Right.
and I don't see the Mia Kirshner, but in this scene, for some reason, the way her face was set or whatever, I was like, okay, I get Mia Kirshner now. Certainly I like her better than Ashley Judd played her in the 2009 film. Was it Ashley Judd?
Winona Ryder.
Winona Ryder, that's it. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. One of those
Played Spock's
actresses.
mom in that?
Yeah.
In the 2009 film, before
Yeah.
she's killed.
Yeah.
Or no,
Spoiler
she's
alert.
not killed. They
Isn't she?
They rescue her right before.
Oh, you're right.
Um,
One other guest star for now. John Chuck plays the Klingon at the beginning.
yeah.
And we referenced him in the Turnabout Intruder episode. I mentioned that he was in a show with Sharon Gless where they flip bodies. And I finally actually researched it.
Was
the
it
name,
Burn Notice?
The name of that show was Turnabout. So we joked that during that episode that they stole this from Star Trek. They literally took the name Turnabout. Also, his debut role, huge role, was in MASH.
Yes,
But he was
I
a great
remember him
character
in
actor.
MASH.
John Schachter.
In the movie MASH.
Yeah, he was the painless Pole.
And he will reprise this role as the Klingon ambassador in an upcoming Star Trek film.
There you go.
I thought so. Speaking of him, we're at the beginning of the movie. He talks about how we are in the midst of negotiating peace with the Klingons. And I thought that was interesting because it's not something that's been covered in the first 3 films. We still saw them as antagonists, but it's a huge theme in the last 2 films coming up, trying to negotiate that peace with the Klingons and move to the new era. So I feel like this movie kind of introduces that in a way I hadn't
that makes
noticed.
sense.
It's kind of a nice build.
And then the Klingons, he states, there shall be no peace as long as Kirk lives. Which, I mean, certainly that is a main part of Star Trek 6, as they want Kirk extradited, and that all comes into play. But my confusion here was, you want Kirk, you don't want the ship? Because I think the whole point of bringing the ship back home to Earth was, we want the technology, we want to study the cloaking device, we want to study all the stuff. I think it's your ship that's the more valuable thing you should be wanting back, not Kirk, right?
You don't understand honor, Jimmy.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Miranda-class Saratoga, that's the same starship class as the Reliant in Star Trek 2. I think they were just reusing models. But they keep reusing that model all the way through Next Gen and DS9, and we keep seeing Miranda-class starships for a long time to come.
They were built a lot better,
I mean,
apparently.
I guess they were better than the Constitution class, because they disappear after the original series. Even though clearly the Enterprise A at the end of the film was still Constitution class. I don't think we see any Constitution class in Next Gen. While we're talking Vulcan, that teaching computer was very confusing because
Michelle Barrett's voice, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was answering some questions vocally, but some questions on the keyboard, but we didn't hear or see his fingers move, I guess. And then, of course, the
touch panel.
he somehow, on these Vulcan computers that were re-educating him, learned all about Earth species and when they went extinct and all that stuff, because he remembers it later.
He remembers when Earth species went extinct, but not necessarily colloquialisms from 300
Right,
years ago.
exactly. Well, you gotta study the facts, not the
Fair enough.
culture.
Yes, fair enough.
But then we get the "How do you feel," which is an iconic part of this movie. I feel like.
Yeah, and I
always remember that.
I noted I kind of like the arc of Spock's, from logic to human arc that kind of started in 3, and it's so much better because I know in the original series I was like, well, you're Vulcan. It's like, but you're also human.
Yeah.
And we got into the McCoy being a species and Spock. Yeah, obviously his entire arc from that series through here is trying to fight off his human side. But I thought this time it's almost like he gets a redo from getting, literally he's reborn. And so I think this time around he's like, you know what? I can give in a little more. I can embrace more of that and still be Super Spock, for lack of a better term, but still be this logical person who figures stuff out and takes care of stuff.
Well, I think part of that is from the moment he's reborn, he is told, "Hey, these humans saved you because they love you."
Right.
And I think that certainly affects his
The
evolution.
needs of one outweigh the needs of the many.
And even if he doesn't agree with that, he is only reborn because of that. And he understands that and knows that. So I think that's part of his internalizing. And I feel like he's much more chill from here on out because of that. We're getting ready to leave. Savick comes on the bridge. "Hey, Kirk, I didn't get the chance to tell you over the last 3 months when I come abridged you when you weren't on the bridge.
That's another one of those. What have you been doing for 3 months?
Your son? Yeah. He died valiantly, and because I'm no longer Kirstie Alley, I can't be part of this story, so I'm just going to stay here. Peace out."
I imagine lots of times she wanted to talk about it, and then she was about to say it, and then Kirk was like, "Oh, I'm watching this," and he was watching something.
That's my alternate
Vulcan TV.
episode, is just a 2-hour slow burn drama where she keeps trying to get the courage to talk to Kirk
It's like when
fails.
people always go to kiss and then somebody interrupts
Yeah.
them. That's exactly
And there's
what happens.
no dialogue in this
Yeah.
movie. It's Eastern European.
It's all incidental. It's all
Yes.
incidental things.
It's all it's like Netherlands, Danish. I don't know, Danish.
Savick walks up. Kirk's
And there's
talking to
weird
someone else.
music.
She ends up spending a lot more time with Kirk than she wants to, doing things that
Yeah.
he likes that she has no interest in.
Yeah,
just
and then she's like-
on the chance that she can get to it, and then she.
Oh, it's a very,
Someone else
very
comes up and
artistic film.
I would think that most of
Excuse
it would be about them trying to learn Klingon and getting interrupted as well.
No, that doesn't
Right.
matter.
Yeah.
Just, they keep, all those purposes keep getting crossed.
But I'm pretty sure, seriously though, that had Kirstie Alley stayed with the series, she would have time traveled with them and been part of the story, and it may have passed the Bechdel test at that point because we
Yeah.
had another female character.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Julian.
I think because Robin Curtis, they're like, you're okay, we'll bring you back and say goodbye to the character, but
Yeah, so
you
like we're
can't-
gonna give you this little moment to say, hey, thanks for filling in for us.
Yeah, you can stay in and wave goodbye with Amanda.
Yeah.
But I really think that, and I think what supports that is by Star Trek 6, they're like, hey, we really miss Saavik. Let's bring in this new character that's just Saavik again because we need that character in the series. Yeah. Well,
But-
next time we see her, it's Kim Cattrall.
Get them
and
checks.
if we're gonna rank Kirstie Alley, Kim Cattrall, and Robin Curtis is third easily.
Huh.
Easily.
I'll have to see, I guess.
I mean, you wouldn't rank her above Kirstie Alley, would you?
I think we talked about this a couple of times, and it's just I think that there are certain things I prefer about the performance of her being a little bit more Vulcan than I expected. I mean, I understand that Kirstie
half
brought
Romulan.
Kirstie Alley brought a lot to the role, but I kept thinking this is too emotional here to do the thing with the.
Well, by not establishing
Christine.
that she was half Romulan on screen, even though that's novel canon. I just think, and this is my opinion, colored by my own view of her performance, I just don't think she lived up to what they'd hoped for the character, the actress, and so they were just looking for a graceful
Then
exit.
don't even give her anything in this movie. Just be like, well, she hitchhiked back to Earth, not with us. Don't make her stay on Vulcan and give her like some pity lines.
Yeah.
I
That's a valid point. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just
also when they were working up on the ship. I'm changing subjects now. Smurf hats. They all had Smurf hats.
Well, didn't we see Vulcans with Smurf hats before?
I was trying to remember.
I don't think so.
They had weird hats in the original series.
But these were only the worker people. The worker
Right,
had
but
Smurf hats.
didn't we see some lower class?
I feel like those hats were similar to the Cloudminders folks, but
Oh, you could be
yeah.
right.
I really like Sarek. I'm going to reiterate that.
Oh, he's
I
always
said
good.
it's Spock 3. Sarek
Always.
is
when he comes
one
in
of
and
my
puts the
favorite
smackdown on the Klingon at
Yes.
the time.
This is not the last time we see him. So.
I know.
And that's like one of those acting lessons is like, just because you're a guest star in some stupid sci-fi show, you know what? Commit to it.
Yep.
Do your best shot, and you might be set for life.
Yeah.
And
You might not be a superstar, but you're gonna be a working actor for the rest of your life.
I mentioned this in the last
And beloved.
podcast with when him in the Next Generation, where he's listening to music and he cries, and it just emotionally, oof.
I love James Frain as an actor, but he does not measure up to Mark Leonard in that role.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who they could have gotten for Discovery instead of James Frain, but it's like the same thing casting Spock for Discovery. They got Gregory Peck's grandson, Ethan Peck, and I'm like, he's a good actor, but who measures up to Leonard Nimoy and Mark Leonard have a very specific way of acting that complements one another really well as father and son. And I don't feel like any of the recasting they've ever done. I mean, Ben Cross in the new movies as Sarek is entirely forgettable in my opinion. I think Quinto does okay, but it's those characters are so specific, and Mark Leonard matched Nimoy's performance so well.
Going back to the sound of the probe,
Yeah.
it
Ridiculous?
I didn't think of that, but when as soon as I heard that probe, I was like, oh, it reminded me of when I watched it in the movie theater, and I was like, oh, I remember when I was young, and it just brought back all the memories of watching this movie again and reenacting them and just saying all the lines. What is the line that Kirk says in 80s Earth when he almost gets run over by a taxi?
Double dumbass on you.
Double dumbass on you.
General note for this movie, I loved all the profanity.
Yes.
I'm usually not a fan of gratuitous profanity, but in this movie it all works.
Because it's for
It's
comedic
not
effect.
that
It's not
profane.
they're not dropping the F word or
No,
anything.
it was still a PG.
And my friend Warren Phoenix Johnson, who does a show on Q4.org every Thursday in Chicago, radio show, one of his sound cues that they play all the time is double dumbass on you. And it's always funny. That will always make me laugh. So, yeah, just seeing it in context for once was, again, I should say it was funny.
Space Dock. The power went out. Didn't they all just die and suffocate in there?
Well, they have some air.
Yeah, but their air, especially if you're in a shuttle, isn't going to last that long.
There's somebody on a bicycle that starts biking to
They're
keep
on
the
a
air
shuttle.
moving.
Are you talking about the people that
in
On the
Space
space
Dock,
station, yeah.
like if you're on the space station itself, you've got a lot of air. If you're on a starship, you've got a lot of air. But there's people in little worker bee shuttles and stuff.
See, I think they
Or
have
spacesuits.
They probably have some kind of backup generator for that kind of
They
in
kept-
case of emergencies.
So when Spock was like, wait a minute, I need to go look this up. And then he goes and you see him, he's looking at every single species.
Marine life, yeah.
don't you think you can narrow it down to
Yes.
whales immediately and then go through all the whale songs?
Yes,
first?
he could,
Instead
but
of-
he's still having trouble with the Klingon language controls.
No, I mean, but
Starfish and Humpback do sound very similar.
I-
It could have been either one.
Yes.
what,
If
seriously
Dory
though,
can
what
learn
do you
how
have
to
known?
speak it, then
Well, I mean, what do you have known? Most of these species were probably extinct by then. What do you even know what they
Yeah.
sounded like, or even that far in the future? They probably
So,
sounded like scan it.
Spock is kind of
everybody has
off.
records, Keith. They have record turntable records of sounds.
But what had he
of
been
what
listening
they
to?
sound like.
He was like just
did.
born again, like
Yeah, but they
he was-
re-educated him on. He knew when they went extinct and all that.
He was getting caught up.
But there's nothing that they played the records for him, like through the process.
Okay,
Born
so wait a
again
minute.
MP3s.
So his mind
He's a
was
born again Vulcan.
Yes.
totally wiped when he was reborn?
Yes.
I
guess.
don't
Well,
think
like
That-
literally too,
it's
though.
it's
He got his memories back, so he
Some.
knows how to
Slowly,
go
right,
back
slowly.
and
They're
everything.
still
And
coming
he's
back.
not like a baby and like pooping himself and everything. He's,
well, that was the first week.
I mean, like as an adult. I mean, he
But
knows to do
it's-
these things.
It's like her and the Changeling. Somehow they got her.
Yeah,
brain,
a week
she got
later,
wiped and it
she
came
was
back.
fine.
So
They
in the
wiped her
future, they find ways to do it. Yeah.
completely. And McCoy is. This is why, I think there's all the support for why it's always been McCoy and Spock, not Kirk and Spock. McCoy is all up his butt this whole movie.
yeah.
And Kirk even says like, McCoy, stay here. No, which first of all, there's no reason to tell him to stay here. But second of all, McCoy is like on Spock, and at first it's like out of concern, but then you also see like, hey, I miss my buddy. I want to reconnect with my
Yeah.
buddy.
I shared my brain with you for a long time.
Yeah.
Can we?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Can we do that thing?
I highly approve of every moment Spock and McCoy are together.
You have totally swayed me to the fan fiction side.
Well, Kirk is just the outsider of this triangle.
And what I liked about how there were moments in this one was there wasn't as much of this speciesism.
Not
Really
directed
was
towards
your
him.
point.
He still
Right,
had
right.
it. He still had
And
it.
I did always enjoy when McCoy uses his space psychology degree as he was using.
I didn't actually note this, but yes, I did really enjoy something about the tenderness
Yeah.
with this. It's like a new kind of step in the relationship between
Yeah.
McCoy and Spock. The way he was just approaching, just very, yeah.
I think
Make
after
meaningful eye contact.
Yes, that too.
after McCoy shared his brain, I think from here on out they're as thick as thieves, and Kirk's the outsider.
That's my. That's
Kirk
my
was
shit
married to
now.
the ship. Spock was married to McCoy.
That's fair.
Just saying. I like the stakes in this movie. I feel like modern movies just have to keep upping the stakes of the danger.
Yeah.
And in Star Trek movies, like, the stakes are a ship, a device. In this movie, a planet, Earth. But we've already established how many other planets there are. To me, it just seems like they don't try to make the stakes ridiculously huge just for the sake of making
Well,
it.
and one of the things was they didn't want like a villain. They didn't want
Succeeded.
weapons used and this kind of stuff. And they still made a delightful movie without
Absolutely.
doing all those things.
I noted that
This was more Gene Roddenberry style.
Yeah, it
The
really
future.
was. Yeah.
I actually noted that they didn't have like really any gratuitous violence. Even just the bit with Checkoff, that whole scene played out very nicely, and it wasn't being tortured. It wasn't like lots
Okay.
of like,
Again, that would be
gunpoint threats
changed
and-
now if it was set in 2019.
I
It would've been torture.
think that security was way too lax.
Right.
I think there would have been a guard behind him. I think when he was running through the ship, people would have been chasing him. I think the cops outside of his surgery room would have been more
Right.
attentive and into it. I just think that was so unrealistic, very
Oh, wait.
80s cheesy movie.
Let me revise that. A Russian in
Especially
in
Russian during the Cold War.
Right, but now in 2019, he'd actually just get a trip to the White House.
Yeah, absolutely. He'd be honored with the Presidential Medal of Freedom for breaking onto the Enterprise.
But
Looking for nuclear vessels.
Nuclear
Wessels.
vessels. Vessels.
My bigger issue with it is that he jumped off the side of a boat and landed on a lifeboat or something.
No, I think it was
dock,
just like
the
the
con-
on the
concrete
dock,
dock.
okay,
Yeah.
and he didn't break any bones or his neck or anything. It was just an artery that needed repaired.
a Wessel.
Well, he was going to die, but
Yeah.
McCoy knew how to fix it.
His-
Right, but
he basically had a
McCoy's-
brain bleed.
But
Yeah.
what McCoy fixed was just an artery or a
In his
vessel, a
brain, yeah.
vessel.
Colleen, your
that-
21st century mind can't understand McCoy's fault.
He landed head first.
Neither can mine.
I'm quoting what was in the movie.
Yes.
I know. But
He
you
landed
don't-
head first, so his other bones were fine.
So everything was fine except one little. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No, that's my bigger issue.
talking
I don't
about
care
artery
about
we
the
don't even know
security.
about
I'm
yet.
talking about
His skull
human
was
biology.
crushed. Yeah.
We know very little about the brain right now.
It's all very confusing.
No.
So I think I got like one last thing before I jump into the time travel in the 80s, which is the main part of the movie. Chapel and Rand are both at Starfleet Command. They don't have lines. They aren't identified by name. They're just there, and I love seeing Commander Chapel and Commander Rand,
Sure.
but Seriously, you can't give him a line
It
or
would have
something?
been nice if there had been like the glass had broken a little bit earlier, and
Yeah.
then they brought the doctors in.
Right.
And,
For Chapel.
And then they could have actually had a line or something. Don't have them there and not do anything with them.
Speaking of cameos, in that first scene when at the Starfleet Command, when all that's going on, there's people on the view screens. I didn't notice it until and I thought it was going to be cheesy, the credit sequence. I forgot the way it worked, but it was showing those like highlights from the show, like every 70s and 80s TV show did. But I didn't feel cheesy here. It actually felt kind of cool. Anyway, Jane Weedland of the Go-Go's is one of the people on the screen in the background. So
The song, We Got the Beat.
We got. That's all I can sing without paying for it.
You know if you heard it.
Yeah, we got the beat.
anyway, she was
That's true. 10
the
seconds. I
guitarist.
believe you're right. So the whole time warp is a thing. I don't know if Rocky
It's
Horror
just a
is
jump to
science
the
now.
left.
Yeah.
And then a step to the right. Except they slingshotting around the sun, which is the way more complicated way to do
Yeah,
it.
you shouldn't do it that way. I mean,
Right.
It's easy. I
I'm-
mean,
I'm
we've got
wor-
a diagram.
They wouldn't have melted their dilithium crystals had they followed the diagram.
Yeah.
Just saying. But no, it was just very offhanded, like, calculate time warp. Okay. I think one of you, I can't remember who said it, but they know time travel, they're just not interested in doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, was it you?
I think we probably both said something.
It seemed like several people said that.
I mean, I think it obviously comes with risk, which they pretty much ignore once they get to Earth, but...
Well, they have no choice.
Right, exactly,
They
yeah.
ignore it and then just willy-nilly, like, give out, like, formulas and...
Right.
And take,
Yeah, well-
and take people.
Yeah.
And...
Well, Jillian
She took
said,
herself.
She said, well, she took herself and she said, I have nobody.
Yeah, I love it when she said,
You know.
I've got nobody here.
Yeah. So she was a loner who didn't matter to be taken out of the time stream.
Well-
and a much bigger problem with Scotty giving the formula. He's like, how do we know he didn't invent it? Because he didn't. I mean, or you would know if he did.
Or did he?
Scotty would know if he did.
You think Scotty knows who invented every formula he's ever used?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
I don't.
I think he's a freaking engineering genius and he would know that stuff, right?
geniuses wouldn't need to
Wouldn't
know
you
those
know
sorts
the
of
things
things.
in your field?
I know a lot of formulas. I don't know who invented
Right.
all of them. Like,
I don't know
But
who the
that's not
best,
your field.
I don't know who the best
No,
joke
it's a-
writers were of 1720, to be honest.
There's a difference between knowing history and knowing how to
That's
apply
true.
something. It's,
No,
it's
you're
just
right.
kinda-
Yeah.
Whether he did or not, I feel
like
like that's
someone
a really
invented
lazy...
long division. I don't know who it was. I do know how to do long division. Scotty
yeah.
knows a lot of things. That doesn't mean he knows who invented all of them.
I just feel like... if
and this
you're-
seems like a very arbitrary
That's
skill.
It was
I know
actually-
how
it
to
was-
write... I can't say it. I did, speaking of, I did feel like this film was woke for 1986 to a point. Because we had the whole
Yeah.
whale thing, but I also feel like everyone was like, yeah, I don't want the whales to die. Except for maybe the Japanese. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Probably.
But
All the Sulu's fans were like, nope.
yeah, but I feel like it's easy. Everyone back then was like, yeah, whales, let's protect them. But if you want to protect a snail darter, people are like, you're costing me jobs, and let's burn coal and kill the snail darters. And now back in 2019, there's still sizable enough people that
Or babies.
Snail
would.
darter.
It's
I think there's a
fish.
Tennessee thing.
I know what snails are and I know what darter snakes
It's
are.
little fish. They couldn't.
Oh.
Oh,
What about
you're saying
elephant
darter
snails?
or garter?
dark.
Darter.
Yeah, darter.
It's
What
a
about
fish
elephant
that
seals?
the fracking
That's
of water
different
goes
thing.
into it.
Are they?
I've never heard of
endangered?
either.
They run zoos, so probably
Yeah.
not.
It's
not
one
in this
thing.
planet.
Yeah.
It's not either.
Right.
But I did feel like it was a PETA sponsored film because that whole sequence where they're showing all those whales getting cut open.
Oh, what?
What is
PETA.
PETA?
Oh,
Like,
PETA.
what am I watching here?
not.
Anyway, I thought that was gratuitous. is
No,
the right
this
word,
was
but-
definitely very like pro-environmental, pro-conservation film in a way that other Star Trek's not, but that I appreciate.
Yeah, I do
kind
too.
of like the
Yeah.
message. I don't think it was too preachy.
No,
It was
no,
just
I
enough,
don't think
just
it-
a little bit.
Jumping ahead, though,
Yeah.
something that Kirk said toward the end, a very dramatic line where he was saying something to the effect of the irony of man causing his own destruction by hunting these whales, and me thinking, poetically, okay, fine, but why would somebody think that this is going to kill my ancestors or my
Right.
Okay, we're doing that with the bees. No one thinks bees were
Right.
important, but bees now
No, I'm-
are.
No, my point is, though, I mean, the idea of it being something so science fictional, like a probe coming from space to kill my descendants way in the future is
Yeah,
kind of funny.
nobody expects a threatening probe, but we
You never
should
know.
protect our wildlife just in
Yes,
case.
true.
Yeah.
We should.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition either, which is also referenced in
Who's
this
gonna
movie.
say
Yes.
that?
That was a good reference.
It was.
McCoy.
McCoy is
McCoy.
on point in this movie. I love
He's
DeForest Kelly in this
good.
movie so much.
So good. So they go back in time finally. So the garbage men, great little bit. I feel like that was the movie we wanted to see, is them talking about the toaster oven.
Yeah, I have a different alternate. I figured out my alternate movie, so yeah, we'll do that later.
Okay, all right.
Because I don't want to derail from that.
But I do have a problem with them landing in the middle of Golden Gate Park, staying there for several days,
And nobody...
and nobody runs into the ship until Gillian.
Well, and I
Did
feel
nobody
like-
go to Golden Gate Park? In
I
those
feel
days?
like when she ran into it or walked into it, she should have
broken her nose or something.
Something,
She was turned to the
yeah.
side, but still.
concussed something. Maybe she was, and that's why she's like, I'll
She
go to
ran
the
in
future.
boob first.
Okay, so...
The dents were very
If you
squared.
saw it, she did run
she
in
did.
boob first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And she's got
That
enough
would hurt.
repercussion.
That's-
I guess.
But those were the legs of the ship.
No, the like.
It
right?
lay-
That's what I
The
thought.
legs?
I think it was
Yeah.
the legs, yeah.
The
Oh.
landing gear
Yeah,
comes
the landing
down.
gear.
And the landing
that's
gear
right.
squared off.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I was for some reason envisioning.
Obviously, it's not the nose of the ship.
Oh, no,
or
it's definitely
anything, 'cause
the-
that's
yeah.
way up here.
Yeah.
It's
You're right.
It's the legs.
You're right.
Yeah.
So yeah, just the like parking in the park and then the way of everybody was weird. And even like we're gonna risk in daylight landing a helicopter. I know they were on a time crunch, but seriously,
No, that was fun.
that was somebody would have noticed. I mean, somebody did notice it, but somebody else would have noticed that.
I did enjoy
Well,
the
I will say-
Blu-ray bonus feature, which was not on my little VHS
Yeah.
TV that we
Never
watched it
saw
on.
it.
I would never have seen the bottom of that thing coming
Although
down. So that was
Oh, me neither.
Golden
That was
Gate
a
Park
fun
is
little
near the
bonus.
Presidio,
The
which
bottom
is
of the
a military
square,
place. So I could see a helicopter being near Golden Gate Park.
Yeah, but like lowering the
Lowering
thing and
something
seeing it
into
disappear.
nothing.
They're like, oh, I must be high on LDS.
Oh my gosh. That was a joke
Hilarious.
in 1986 that I never got
Oh, me neither.
until now.
This is definitely the 1st
I'm
time
like,
I got that.
oh,
joke.
he means
That's
LSD.
funny.
Yeah.
Shoot.
So now we're in the 80s where the movie gets fantastic. Not that the first half hour was bad, but this is where the movie gets fantastic and stays fantastic. I mean, the first thing we get after the landing is they go on the streets and Kirk's like, act casual, and everybody just kind of runs into each other.
Awkwardly, like,
I've never been on a street before. And then he goes and sells his glasses, which breaks my heart because it's such a pivotal
It's a
moment.
nice
in Star Trek
Rathacon
2.
callback.
But then
Yeah.
he sells them, and it's like $100. Is that a lot? And then he splits it up among 7 people, and it's fine. It's just, don't splurge. Here's your $10. Then we get the I love on the bus the screw you song,
Oh, it's always
Yeah.
funny.
So a couple things about that.
which is originally written for this film. It's
It
not
was?
a
Yeah.
other track.
So that. Oh, sorry. Keith.
Well, I was going to say, first of all, I think you made a joke earlier, and I'm not sure if I heard it right or not, but just when they first arrived and they're asking, are we at the right place? What's going on? And I was saying that could have used some 80s music right then to do the transition.
it was
but then
so-
once they got down the street, immediately 80s music.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so on the bus, I was convinced. I mean, it sounded like a Sex Pistols song that I hadn't heard before. I was like, what is that? And
No.
so that was actually the guy.
Yeah,
that
and that's
guy-
all the longer the song is. You can't get any additional.
That guy was an associate producer, and he was like, "I want to be in that part," and he's like, "I'll get the music together too." And I guess it happened to Nimoy somewhere in New York. That happened to him. He was just like, he thought it was so rude. He was like, "If I could Vulcan nerve pinch this guy, I would." And so he got it in the movie.
Yeah, we didn't even we skipped over this. Nimoy directed again.
Yep.
This is the second movie in a row Nimoy's directed. I thought he did a wonderful job. And
Yeah.
this time he actually had to be in the movie.
Yeah.
Whereas last time he was
Yeah.
hardly in it.
Uh,
and Harv Bennett and Nick Myers wrote the script.
Nicholas Meyer, yeah.
Who wrote Rathacon. Nick Myers did.
And he did a movie called Time After Time, which was about H.G. Wells going back in time to chase Jack the Ripper. And it was set in San Francisco, so Nicholas Meyer loved San Francisco as a backdrop. And I did write every movie should be set in San Francisco, New York, because they just have such great locations.
Oh, also, still about that scene on the bus. Maybe I missed something. I was looking away, but when he nerve pinched him, did he also turn off the volume or something, or just like cut off?
Yeah,
He
his
fell on
head.
it. He
Oh,
fell on it.
Okay.
And that was also the producer's idea. The guy playing the part, he was like, "What if I turn it off this way?" So
We had, they went to dinner, and she's like, do you like Italian? Which, the great
No.
yes, no, yes, I do, and so does he. But in my mind, if you're going for Italian, that's not pizza, right? Pizza's a whole separate thing.
I mean, it's
I think it'd be at an Italian restaurant.
certain, restaurants.
Depends on
certainly.
yeah.
I'm not mad at pizza being Italian.
I mean, like Olive Garden has a pizza, but if you're going to an Italian restaurant, you're not ordering pizza, right?
Come on, trust
Some
her.
people do.
I see what you're saying. Pizza will be on the menu, but that's not where you're going to go to.
Right. If you want to go get pizza, you say, let's go get pizza. You don't say, let's go get Italian.
I also noted that Spock and Kirk should have Italian cuisine will survive into the 23rd century.
Sure.
It will be evergreen. You're
I
gonna
mean,
get
that's why
spaghetti,
Kirk knows he likes
lasagna.
it.
Exactly.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And that's
Spock's
why
a
Spock doesn't
vegetarian,
like it.
and so much of Italian isn't vegetarian. That might be.
That's why Spock doesn't like it. That's why he
In
doesn't
fact, I'll
know.
make a reference to Woody Allen's Sleeper, where they mention that in 200 years in the future, every man on Earth is impotent except for Italians, because pasta. So that is another reason that Italian cuisine will not go out of style.
I like that they set in San Francisco because I would expect it to be set in LA because
Long lost
that's
cousin
cheaper
of
because
Bob.
that's where they film. But Starfleet headquarters in
Bad
San
joke.
Francisco, and I feel
It
like
makes-
Star Trek has a special connection to San
Yes.
Francisco. That I really am glad we got to see San Francisco.
I do too.
Even though I'm sure it cost them a lot more money than LA would have.
Yeah. I like that she calls him Farm Boy.
Yeah, because he's from Iowa.
I love that they reestablished that connection to Iowa.
So Spock in his tidy ways. I
They
distinctly.
were tight. They were loose.
That makes it worse.
Well, they're wet. So, I mean, if
How does
they'd
that
been,
make it worse?
I don't know.
You
She's
couldn't
right.
see the outline of his genitalia.
It would no.
Yeah, but then they can move all around and they're falling out of places.
As my 2-year-old daughter joins the conversation.
Yes. However old I was, on the age of what I was heading into, that was, for me, I distinctly remember my cheeks flushing so, just like,
Yeah?
oh my gosh, he's not wearing pants.
I wasn't scandalized, but if it was Uhura, I probably would have been. Star Trek 5 will get Uhura's naked dance, and yes, I was scandalized.
See, that's the thing where, it's...
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you get Keith next movie, you get to see Uhura dance behind the feathers.
But if we're doing fashion, which used to be a thing on
Yes,
yeah,
it is still.
So while we're talking about Spock's little tunic thing, I also A, love his bathrobe dress, and B, Uhura's fingernails making her completely
Yes.
inept at her job. Every time they did a close-up
thought
on, they were
about
like,
that.
do something, and she's like, whack, 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 whack. I can't do my job because my nails are 3 inches
She does it
long.
like you type.
Yes.
Uhura
Which is
can
also like
do her
the
job
swimming.
despite the nails because she's fabulous.
She can't. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I started. Oh, sorry, Keith.
Did you ever tell Colleen about the swimming thing?
Oh, there was an episode of the animated series where they were swimming like you type.
Nice.
Yeah. Like you pretend to type. I should say.
No, that's how I type.
Oh, okay, whatever. That's why you're so. Yeah. So originally I had McCoy's best dressed, but then I was like, well, maybe Sulu. Who's the best dressed?
Sulu.
Sulu.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I do like his. He wears the
Or McCoy.
kimono at one point. The kimono shirt. The
kimono shirt, and then he
I
also
do
has
like
the-
McCoy's layers.
I liked McCoy's jacket.
McCoy's
The,
jacket is
the
awesome.
layers.
Yeah, I would
And,
wear. Yeah.
and Scotty, I think I commented, I'm pretty sure the outfit he's in by the time he loses the jacket, he's just in the black vest and the white shirt. Pretty sure that's still the outfit he's wearing when he shows up in Next Generation. So,
But I also like Jillian wearing a sweater under a blazer. Because San Francisco is known to be very chilly.
I didn't
It
catch
is.
that.
No, you want to be layered in San
Yeah.
Francisco.
So she wore a full sweater under a
my
blazer.
wife grew up in San Francisco, but there's no way she'll come on and talk about it.
Mark Twain said the worst summer he ever spent, or worst
If only-
winter he ever
if
spent.
only
was
somebody
summer
could
in San
find her.
Francisco.
You know, she's right over there. There's no way she's coming over
You want
here
to be
talking
layered.
on the podcast.
You want to be layered.
What do we think about the fact that they worked in the Enterprise in this film?
Oh, I
I
thought,
liked
The nuclear
it.
vessel.
Yeah.
I liked it.
That was just like
Oh, that's
heartwarming.
it.
Yeah.
Like, because there was, at this point, the Enterprise was destroyed.
Right.
We didn't know they were going to spring the Enterprise A on us at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So to have that Enterprise
That was
there
cool.
felt so meaningful to me
And
as a kid.
Chekhov's line that he said
Captain.
we did the cheese
Or
face.
Admiral.
Yeah,
It's
he
the
just
Enterprise. Yeah.
loved it.
No, it's a great,
Yeah, it's
great
cool.
moment. It's one of my favorite moments of the film. I mean, there's a lot of hilarious moments of the film, but that's one of my favorite feel moments of the film for sure.
I have a couple of things.
Yeah.
So, straddling back a bit, for the fashion, it seemed to me
Oh,
that
yeah.
if you look closely at Spock's headband, you could see that he had he didn't have like the prosthetic ears on. You could
Oh,
kind of see
sure.
the round.
That's part of why you
especially
put the headband on, so you
Yeah.
can spend hours in makeup.
The detail there.
Hours in makeup for just the pointy ear
Yep.
things.
And the eyebrows. Right.
Well, the eyebrows, you still kind of saw the eyebrows. Didn't
Well, I guess you're saying also that would be why he
Yeah.
spent hours in makeup
Oh,
for
yeah.
to get the.
Well, to perfectly mold and glue. I think today it would be much quicker, but in
Yeah.
the old days.
The other thing is that I wrote they certainly were not being stingy with the Wessels. You have to say it a lot if you
He
you
said
know
it a ton
love
of
the
times.
Well, of course, because that's hilarious, and we had heard Checkoff do stuff like that for a while.
yeah. So let's just
I mean, I
Go all in.
I really like the movie uniforms they wear in films 2 through 6, but I also kind of like that this movie. I mean, I guess in the last movie they were kind of out of uniform too, but I like their outfits in this movie. In this movie, it feels more natural to me than in the previous movie. I guess because in the previous movie they're still on the Enterprise, even if they steal it. Checkoff, when they arrest him in the nuclear vessel, has a physical ID that has his name, rank, and serial number.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
That was weird. Why would you carry that in Starfleet? It seems...
That hasn't been established in anything else?
No.
Then?
Yeah.
I thought maybe it was just like...
No, never again. Although, when he was running from the bad guys, the fact that they had escape route printed off the wall, and I'm sure on VHS and in the old version you weren't expected to notice that, but on Blu-ray, where we can like slow it down and back it up, the fact this is escape route on the wall is pretty ridiculous.
Okay, so do you think it was a joke, or do you think it was... do you think
it was
like,
absolutely set dressing joke.
Well, I mean, like a...
Agreed, but I think Wessels have those on them.
They have escape route logo?
Escape route. No, just like, here's the way...
Exit. Emergency exit, maybe.
That's what I'm trying to say. It
But
could
I
just
don't
be
think
like,
they call it escape route.
Right.
Right, well, that may be... I don't know. Maybe they...
I don't know. This is where we need Samantha Stark on the podcast.
I don't, like... I should look tomorrow at work, because we have fire exit routes everywhere. I don't know if we call them escape routes.
Probably not, but if so, come back and talk about it.
I'm the co-chair of our building. I'm going to have that changed to escape route.
You should.
Spock's cursing was great.
It was?
Yes.
It was the hell great.
The hell great.
The hell you are. I'm all the way up to when Kirk brings Jillian on the Klingon ship. Does anybody have any notes from earlier?
I have...
Okay, go
Because
ahead.
I've skipped through a lot of this and stuff we've covered elsewhere in the conversation. You want to talk about it on the podcast so people know?
The joggers that show up, so there's a scene, is it when they're blasting off, I think?
Yes.
There's joggers that get
Yes.
blown away
Which is actually after where I...
in Golden Gate Park,
After
and that
where
was
he's at.
actually in the Disaster Artist. That's where they're shown running through that exact same spot in Golden Gate Park.
Great.
So I mentioned, there were a couple places where they seem to set up the time travel joke that Marianne hates, but never quite say it.
Yes.
We alluded to it
Which one's
eventually,
that?
like the, where are
Where are we?
I think the question is, when are we? Yeah, so they kind of
I
did
hate
a
that.
dinner.
Yeah, it's kind of a
they
rough joke.
restated it with like it's not a question of location so much as it's about the time of.
I do love that whole scene though, where she's like, "Do you trust me?" And then she orders pizza, and they get Michelob, which is what my parents always got at Pizza Hut when we went out to dinner.
Ah.
We rarely went to dinner, but when we did, it was usually Pizza Hut. They'd always get Michelob's draft.
I feel like as soon as she ordered
It
Michelob,
felt very
she's been like,
familiar.
I no longer trust you. The Dr. Nichols was played by Alex Henteloff, who's a great character actor. He was in Hardly Working, the terrible Jerry Lewis movie, which I still recommend watching. I loved his I Quit Smoking button.
Yeah, that was
What
fun.
the heck?
Was that a reference to something, or-
No, I don't remember that being a thing, but I just thought it was just a hilarious little touch that he quit smoking.
So the thing that I marked down going back a little bit was I have a photographic memory. I see words.
That I hear, I guess. Yeah.
That makes no sense.
My response was, that isn't how it works.
No, it's
That's
not.
not how any of this works.
Now, if she said I have a phonographic memory,
Yes.
then you got something.
Right.
Well, Nick Myers and Harv Bennett just are not well versed in special memories.
I remember when I was a little kid going, that's not how that works.
Oh, I didn't know. I was a dumb kid.
I was seriously like, that's not what that means, right? And having conversations with my mom about the movie and stuff.
So I love when she jumps on the Kirk when he beams aboard, and he says, "Hello, Alice. Welcome to Wonderland." I don't know. I dig when science fiction does allegories. I don't know if you ever watched the show Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles, which is basically a 2-year Wizard of Oz allegory, which is fantastic. Discovery leans real heavily on Alice in Wonderland, so it tickled me that there's precedence. I mean, obviously, shortly we see Alice, but there's like strong precedence of Alice in Wonderland within Star Trek. So then they're in the hospital, and McCoy is being so McCoy. And they give the woman the kidney pills for dialysis. He's like, just call me. And I'm like, you didn't give her a number or anything. I don't... And Checkoff hurt again, just like Wrath of Khan. They're like, what made Wrath of Khan work? Checkoff got hurt. Let's make him get hurt again.
It's torture porn. You take
Did
your
he-
favorite character and you keep putting them in situations where they get hurt, and all those Chekhov fans will be like, oh.
I don't know. Whose favorite character is Checkoff?
Mine.
I was going to
I
totally
mean, when he was when they introduced him in the 60s, it was because they thought they would get like young women
ladies,
to tune in.
Well, it looks like it worked.
Agreed.
But I just...
I had a crush on him during this movie.
Who's your favorite character, Colleen?
The whales, I guess.
Well, in
No,
this particular
ever.
movie, it's
In all
the whales. Probably Bones.
See,
Agreed.
now that I'm rewatching it, I am definitely more attracted to Spock and Bones than I am Chekhov. Or
Spock
Sulu.
and Bones are basically opposites, so
Yeah.
you like both of them?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't. So I like Spock. I also like Bones.
Did Checkoff scream when he fell off the thing?
He didn't.
No.
Yeah. Well, why would they deny us that? If you're gonna torture Checkoff, we gotta. Ah!
I appreciated we didn't have the scream.
This seemed like a very, like they were trying very hard, as I said before, not to have too much gratuitous violence.
There was enough comedy in here, you didn't need to add the comedy on top of it.
Right.
I
It seemed like
distinctly remember seeing the airbag go when he landed.
Oh, did you? I know.
Oh, really?
It's like a crash pad.
I definitely saw a puff of it. I guess I just thought it was dust. I didn't think it was an airbag. That makes sense.
Oh, that does
okay,
make sense.
you explained something I didn't.
Huh.
Yeah. So this brings us to a good point as they're escaping the hospital. Let's talk about the music of this movie. That scene
I can
is
barely
ridiculous.
remember
But that's not the music they use.
And sued.
Might as well.
This movie, however, was nominated for an Oscar for Best Score.
Really?
Yeah, and I think it's easily the worst of the.
Yeah.
We're
So
talking
the
like-
four we've seen
like-
so far, it's the worst music.
The opening credits music.
The whole score
score.
was nominated for best score for.
The opening credits music wasn't new. That's held over from other films.
I wonder, because I didn't really recognize
Yeah, there
it.
were a few.
I
We've
wouldn't-
used it from the last couple films.
I wouldn't be able to pick it out as being Star Trek of anything. I mean, it didn't seem very distinctive to me, but yeah.
While we're there, the other Oscars got nominated for were essentially both the sound categories, sound and sound effects editing, and cinematography, which is kind of these days is more of a upper level
Special effects. Maybe.
No, no, it's more of like your auteur films like Roma and some of those last year. It's more of your highbrow, I guess, for lack of a better term. Not to say that Star Trek isn't highbrow, but I know.
But this movie is not the highbrow.
No,
of
it is
Star Trek.
not. So it's not. I mean, and again, I think it's being in San Francisco just makes everything look better. So you get a lot of great shots and sight lines and everything.
So explain to me this escape here. They're in the hospital. They're in the elevator.
I thought it was the escape route
They're
again.
beamed to the park outside of the ship, where they rush Checkoff in, and then Kirk is separately beamed onto the ship, while everybody else has just walked up the ramp through the door.
It was the limited power. They had to kind of hop them from spot to spot.
Or it could have been the space inside the ship too. Where are you going to put these people in this configuration?
Sure.
And
Yeah,
you arrange them
Keith,
to
go ahead.
I can do it. I can.
You sound like me justifying obvious mistakes.
Yeah.
That brings us, I think, to my favorite Scotty line of the movie, which is, "There be whales here." I don't know why I love that line so much, but I love that
It's
line.
also James Doohan's favorite. Also.
Really?
Yes. Of all of his Scotty lines, he says.
I didn't know that, but it's my favorite Scotty line in this film.
And I thought Jillian's acting was very 80s acting.
Catherine Hicks?
Catherine
Yeah,
Hicks.
Yeah, a little
Well,
bit.
Catherine Hicks, her acting ability is pretty limited. This is her range.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I feel like. Granted, I've only seen clips of Seventh Heaven, and I don't know if I've seen her in
okay.
anything else. And quick shout out, she starred in Seventh Heaven with her fellow Star Trek: The Motion
Stevie
Picture
Collins.
star Stevie Collins. Although he had all that child pornography crap that he,
I feel like
We're definitely now in the explicit part of the podcast.
I feel like definitely a lot of
yeah,
You can't say
limited
crap.
range. I feel like she's got limited range.
I feel like a lot of acting in the 80s though was like that. It wasn't just,
Well, certainly.
I'm not.
It's an 80s movie feel.
To be
It's not-
clear, I'm not knocking her performance here. I'm thoroughly charmed by her, and I like this character a lot. I just feel like that is the part she can play, and I don't think she can really play other parts, in my opinion.
She did win an Emmy Award nomination for playing Marilyn Monroe in Marilyn the Untold Story.
I have not seen that.
The
Maybe
Norman
that would change
Mailer
my
best
mind.
best
Maybe that would change my mind. I'll have to check it out.
So I remember in the theater, and every time I watched it, the scene with the whales, with the whaling ship.
Oh,
And like the whaling,
heartbreaking.
there was one ship there's one whale that is slowly going to the air, going up to get air, and I'm like, no, he better go. Getting really nervous and really upset, and then having the bird of prey show up, and just the harpoon hitting it, and just being like, yeah, just like, woo, like really excited.
The only time anyone's been happy to see a Klingon ship
Yeah.
show up.
Clapping. I think I remember clapping in the theater. Like, of course, there was probably a bunch of other people clapping.
Real quick, while we're talking about clapping and Catherine Hicks acting, her clapping at the end when they demote Shatner.
Oh, yeah.
They demote Kirk. Sorry.
She was all in on that. I liked it actually.
Her clapping. Go and watch the end of Dodgeball when Shatner claps when they win. When not Ben Stiller's team. When
I don't remember.
Vince Vaughn's team wins. Shatner, he does this surprise like, oh my god, and claps just like she does in this movie. I think it's an homage. It's a
I don't remember
direct
Shatner being in Dodgeball.
He's the commissioner of the Dodgeball.
Haven't seen Dodgeball.
What's a bylaw?
So they go back in time. The Klingon ship is like crash landing into the bay, and they're like, their power's off, but we still have lights so that you can see what's going on the bridge.
Emergency lights.
Yeah.
But no. Nobody else got to keep emergency lights.
It's like glow
that made
sticks.
no sense. That did not happen in Starfleet Command. You can't tell me the Klingons have better light systems. No.
They've got
No,
cloaking devices. I mean, it's...
Yeah, that's not the same thing.
Well, it feeds from the...
Oh, God, no.
It refracts
No.
the light from outside.
No. They come back, like we said, just a few minutes before they left because we see the glass break again. Mm-hmm. Why did they come back a week before?
Right.
Like, avoid all the damage and
He was
stuff.
guessing.
He was
Spock
guessing.
I understand
Right.
he was guessing. I don't know. I if I were him, I would be like, okay, if I'm going to guess, I'm going to err on the side of let's get back early, even if it's years early, because we can lay low on Earth, so that we don't have to deal with this damage and lives lost from this probe coming in. Dramatically, it seems like we have to have everybody in peril so that the charges are dropped against everybody except letting Kirk command a starship. Because had they not saved them in the middle of peril, had they just showed up a week earlier and be like, hey guys, by the way, you're all going to die, but we did this.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
wow.
That's
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe Spock was like, okay, I've got my guess. We're going to arrive the day before. And Kirk's like, no. Spock, just right after, right before we left. Okay, let him be a danger.
Let him sweat it out a bit. Let him
That
sweat it
does
out.
make sense.
And then the ship, which is crashed in the bay and is filling up with water and I guess slowly sinking, the part where they've climbed out just stays exactly the same amount above water the whole time.
It stopped sinking.
It's going to go last because it's going to.
Yeah, but it doesn't move. It's
Well,
not going last. It's just not sinking at all.
That was the holding it
The
up.
furthest shift, yeah.
Except the
like-
whales are swimming away.
Well,
It was like waving, too.
It hit bottom.
It hit bottom?
So it was just sitting there.
Doesn't feel like it hit bottom.
Yeah.
I don't think San Francisco Bay is that shallow.
I am glad they could all swim, though. That just makes me happy that swimming is on the Starfleet itinerary, despite what we saw in the animated series.
That jump in the water was goofy and whatever, but I always loved it. And then
Maybe a hatch.
we have the trial. Kirk gets demoted, which isn't really a punishment. It's like, let's put you back at what you're doing best. Captaining a starship. Yay, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He's the big hero of the moment. He goes up to Jillian. He's like, hey, you want to, And she's like, oh, I'll be in touch. And he's like, but you don't even have my number. He even says, you don't have my number. And she's like, I'll find you. It's very much like, yeah, I never fell for your charms. I used you and now
I
I'm
like
good.
ladies.
And separate lives.
Yeah.
I love that they gave you the idea that she was going to kiss him, and then she doesn't.
She was trying to get past him.
Yeah, it's just it's a great.
I love that she totally shuts him down.
Yeah.
That does not happen.
It's a great giving into like audience, like, oh well, they should get together, even though it really doesn't make any sense. It really weren't any super romantic overtures. They were just Kirk and a pretty girl together
Having awkward moments.
And-
it's not even.
Yeah,
flirtation.
and I love Shatner's face because he's like almost meta in that he gives like I'll use an Animal House reference when the girl tells Otter, he's like, Otter, you're not that great. Great. Shatner's giving that same face like, how did that happen?
It could have been
You're
worse.
supposed to kiss me.
What could have happened is he's sitting there flirting with Jillian, and then Carol Marcus runs up and jumps in his arms and kisses him full in the mouth. He's like, oh, Jillian, this is my friend Carol. Fred, blah, 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 blah. That could have been worse. Just saying.
I just had a few things about the whales, like right before that.
Do it.
Okay,
It's a long one.
And this is, we kind of talked about this a bit. I wondered, should these whales from the 1980s have any idea what the hell the probe is talking about when it's asking them things like, "You're a probe," or what's going
What's
on?
speaking
And
their language?
You're right.
I guess.
Maybe, yeah. Have there been
future?
advances?
What? Yeah. But I mean,
It'd be just like another whale talking to them,
Yeah.
and they're from a time where there were other whales, so they don't
Right.
think it's weird. They're
So
someone else.
what-
I realized when Marianne was talking about like how brief the conversation was, it probably was literally like, "Hey, you guys okay? Fine. They did these nice things for us. Okay, bye."
But would it have been like us talking to someone in the 1800s?
Right.
But
Yes.
Right.
what? Like when I went and watched the movie The Witch, I was like, I don't understand what half these people are saying.
It's like when you go see Shakespeare in the Park.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the other things that the whales might have said to them is that the ocean tastes funny.
Probably. It's so much cleaner. What happened? Where's all the pollution?
And the song they would have been singing was "I Think We're Alone Now."
Oh, cute.
My alternate movie was when Uhura does fix up the sound so they can hear the whales a certain way. She ends up it's Uhura as a mixmaster. She becomes a recording artist in the 23rd century.
Any other notes, anybody?
I got nothing.
We're ready to go rankings. Of the 4 films we've seen.
I'd put it at 2, behind Wrath of Khan.
I figured this was going to happen. Even though I guess we
Do you disagree with it?
We spoiled it at the beginning. Yeah. No, I mean, what else can you really do? It's hard to say that it's.
I would put it before Wrath of Khan.
What?
Oh, there we go.
What?
Colleen would agree with
Blasphemy.
me, right?
It's my favorite.
Well,
I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's like it's more like an apples and oranges kind of thing, though. It's a different kind of.
It's not a Star Trek movie.
One's the. Sorry, go ahead.
it's not a Star Trek film.
It's not really technically a Star Trek. It's not in space.
I mean, it is
In
a
the
Star
80s.
Trek film. It's just...
Some of it takes place in space and the science fiction.
Yeah, I would consider it a Star Trek film. It's just an unusual Star Trek film. I mean, so Steven and I would have it at number 2.
Yeah.
Colleen and Marianne would have it at number 1. So I guess that really comes down to Keith.
Man,
I mean, you can agree with these guys, or you can.
I mean, you will ruin the good name of this podcast forever if you rank it above Wrath of Khan, but no pressure.
You can
Say
agree with
whatever you
ladies, or
like.
you can agree with the rest of Star Trek fandom.
I enjoy them both in just different ways, and
Yeah.
I would say as a Star Trek film, 2 would be better. So
Okay.
with that provision, just in general, these are. I mean, they're both very watchable in different ways. I mean, this one could have been marketed very much as not even like this isn't a whale movie. This isn't a Star Trek
Yeah.
movie. This is a future time travel movie. If people didn't really know the characters, they could have gotten into this and
Sure.
had a lot of fun with it.
And I will say, and this isn't a slight on what you guys thought of it, I think this is one that appeals more to people that aren't. This goes more to Marianne's point.
Agreed.
I think this appeals more to people that aren't Star Trek fans like us.
Like Colleen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a they can just jump right in and
Yeah.
Even though it's the third in a trilogy, you can
Yeah.
just watch its movie and be
right
fine.
yeah.
Men, women of Star Trek rankings. Where we are right now, Steven, you are still have Carol Marcus.
I'm sticking with Carol Marcus.
I am at Kirstie Alley Savick, and I think I'm going to stick with Kirstie Alley Savick. Keith, you have switched to Robin Curtis as Savick. You wanna
No,
stay-
I can't. I'm trying to think. Of
Or
what-
just Jillian.
Yeah, that's really feels like the only choice, right? Or Jane Wyatt.
You can do Amanda.
Yeah.
You did. She was
I guess I could
interesting.
have done that.
What did I pick last?
You, Marianne, you were at Sarek.
There's whales.
I'm staying with him.
That makes sense. Colleen, you are not ranked in the films yet. The whales, George and Gracie.
No, I mean they're cute. No, I picked the naval officers on the ship.
Yeah.
The ones reading the radar with the energy drop.
Yeah.
I don't care how dumb they are. They were good looking.
Naval officers reading radar for energy drop is Colleen. Keith, we'll come back to you. Are you staying with Robin Curtis as Savick, or are you switching?
Savick, even though I'm running the risk of being stranded on Vulcan. I guess.
Well, you were already stranded on the cloud planet. You just have a history of being stranded.
Someone has to take care of the child, so.
So, this is actually the end of our current run of films, because Star Trek V didn't come out till Next Generation and been on the air for almost 2 years. And we are sticking with release order.
That's right.
So, this is not the end of our mini-season. We still have 1 episode left in the mini-season. Next week we are going to do Futurama, where no fan has gone before. And that will be the end of our mini-season. Then we'll take a 3-week break, and we'll come back with the Next Generation. So you've got that to look forward to. Until then, this was a good run of 4 films. I'm almost disappointed we're not going straight to 5 and 6, but I think it's the right decision. We'll have different contexts.
We'll get there.
Until then, Captain, there be whales here. Admiral.
Double dumbass on you. Live long and prosper.
It's All Been Done presents.
Who's got the time?